Look at simplified fractions, numerical fractions. So does 12 over 16 here look like it's in its simplest form? Well, what we have to do is find what's called the highest common factor of both 12 and 16. So a factor is a number that divides exactly into another number. Or another way to put it, factors are the numbers you can multiply together to make those numbers. So the factors of 12 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 12. Because 12 appears in those times tables. The factors of 16 are 1, 2, 4, 8 and 16. Again, because the number 16 appears in those times tables. So we want to find the highest common factor. So we're looking at both of those sets of factors and we're identifying the number 4 here as the highest common factor. So that's what we're going to use to then divide both 12 and 16. So we're going to divide 12 by 4 and 16 by 4. And what we're going to be left with is 3 over 4. So 12 over 16 is the same thing as 3 over 4, 3/4. Let's have a look at this one. We've got 18 and 24. So what we want to do is find the highest common factor of 18 and 24. So what times table does 18 belong to? Well, it's always going to be the 1 times table. Here we've got the 2 times table. We've got the 3 times table. We've got the 6 times table. We've got the 9 times table. And we also have the 18 times table, because 1 times 18. For 24, what do we have? Well, we always have the 1 times table. Again, it is part of the 2 times table. We have also the 3 times table. We have the 4 times table. Let's not forget 4. We have the 6 times table. We have the 8 times table. We have also the 12 times table. And then we have the 24 times table. So a lot of factors for 24 there. So what is the highest common factor in this case? Well, we have 6 in each of those sets. So what we're going to do is divide both of those by 6. So 18 divided by 6, 24 divided by 6. What we're going to be left with is 3 over 4, 3/4 again. So we do have a quick smaller method of doing that, and one way we can do that, instead of listing out the factors like that, you can just divide by a number you know. So for example, if we go back to the common factors there, we could have just started off with dividing by 2, like that. So if I divide both of those by 2, what I'm going to be left with is 9 over 12. And then we look at the 9 over 12 and we see if we can repeat the process. Well, we can't divide both by 2 this time, but what times table does 9 and 12 both belong to? Well, we can divide both by 3 because 9 and 12 are both members of the 3 times table. So we can divide both of those by 3. And what we're going to be left with is 3 over 4 again. So if you're struggling finding the highest common factor, just find a common factor to simplify and then repeat the process. There are special cases of fractions. So for example, when the numerator equals the denominator, the top number equals the bottom number, that is always going to give 1. Because a fraction is the numerator divided by the denominator. So 6 divided by 6 will be 1. When the denominator is a factor of the numerator, so here we can see that 4 is a factor of 12. So we can divide 12 by 4 to leave a whole number. And so we're going to get a whole number. You might recognise if we divide top and bottom by 4, you would actually get 3 over 1 like this. But whenever we've got 1 in the bottom, we're just left with the top number like that. Because 3 divided by 1 is 3. So why don't you pause the video and try these. So we've got 21 over 28, 45 over 60, 50 over 100. So let's do number 1 first. So 21 over 28, I've identified that both 21 and 28 are members of the 7 times table. So 7 is the highest common factor of both of those. So I'm going to divide both by 7. And so what I'm going to be left with is 3 over 4. 3/4 again. Okay, how about 45 over 60? Now, the highest common factor is actually 15, but I'm going to do this how I imagine some of you would have done it, and recognise that, well, if a number ends in 5 or 0, then they will divide by 5. So we can divide by 5 first of all. So 45 divided by 5 will be 9. 60 divided by 5 will be 12. But we can repeat this process. So 9 and 12 are both members of the 3 times table, so 3 is the highest, is a common factor of both of those. In this case, it will be the highest common factor. So what we have is 3 over 4. 3/4 again. Okay, and then the last one here, we've got 50 over 100. So when a number ends in 0, so it's a multiple of 10, we'll just divide by 10 to start with. And we're going to be left with 5 over 10. And now, common factor of those will be 5, so we can divide both by 5. And we're going to be left with 1 over 2, or a half. We could have seen that 50 is a half of 100, so you might have been able to have just divided both top and bottom by 50 as the highest common factor there. Okay, and that's a short introduction on how to simplify fractions.